Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Hi again, everybody. Welcome to episode 93, amazingly, of the Near Memo with David, Mike, and me, Greg. And we're going to be talking again, as always, about search, social, and commerce through a kind of local lens. And today we're going to talk about age or demographic differences in review behavior coming out of the Moz Local Reviews Report, authored by Miriam Ellis. We're going to be also talking about Apple and its business. David, tell me the name of it.
Business Register, I believe.
Business Register. Okay. And finally, we'll end on the Google, I forget what they called it, gallery of the SERP, the different elements, visual elements of the SERP and the labeling of that and what that sort of signifies more broadly. So, Mike, why don't you take us away here?
Sure. So Miriam's been working on this large-scale survey. I can't remember the exact numbers, but there was several thousand survey respondents around reviews. It was a fairly long survey, and this is, I think, the second installment where she looks at age groupings. Now, the age groupings are a little strange: 18 to 29, 30 to 60, and 61 plus. So it's not clear. I mean, maybe it was done to get roughly equal numbers of people. I'm not sure. So the age groupings are a little strange, but a third of this group said that they, read reviews on a regular basis. A third said that they will sometimes leave a review when asked to do so, which is interesting to me, which is something that businesses don't understand, is that just because you ask somebody to leave a review doesn't mean they're going to leave a review, that the numbers are a funnel and it's a very small number. Half of the three groups will seek out a business if its owner responds to reviews to resolve stated problems, with the older people more likely to do that. But there were some differences that I thought were interesting. Older Americans write fewer reviews. Older Americans are less tied to Google reviews. Some of that is habitual. You sort of grow up on Yelp. You probably still use Yelp, even if Yelp is in decline. I guess people of my generation don't notice or something. I'm not sure.
I think your generation's still on Yahoo, Mike.
It's true. I look at these email addresses and it's like, whoa, that's a Yahoo address. Jesus, how many times have you been hacked?
Or AOL.
But there were a couple things that are consistent with what we've been talking about in terms of sort of peak reviews. One is that younger Americans trust social media more as a source of local business reputation than the other groups. I don't remember the exact percentages, but also younger Americans prefer SMS as a request mode, which makes sense. And this one was most interesting to me, that younger Americans need extra guidance with the review writing process, that they are confused by it. Maybe that's a reflection on our bad education system. I'm not sure. It doesn't seem all that complicated to me, but it is consistent with sort of one of the theories I have, which is that there's a generational difference and that younger people are writing reviews less than they used to. But everybody's unhappy about product quality, and it's one of the main reasons they leave reviews. It doesn't matter whether you're old, middle-aged, or young. So it was an interesting summary. Younger Americans also read a greater number of reviews before deciding to give a business a try. So while they may not write them as much, they read them more. So go ahead.
Well, so do you think we don't have any historical data, so we don't know how much that's changed or evolved over time, but what's your sense of that, Mike, from your days at GatherUp?
My sense is that in other historical looks I've taken on other questions, that cohort behavior carries through. So you learn a behavior when you're in the younger cohort and you carry it through. So if you started on Yelp, you stay with Yelp, those kinds of behaviors. I do actually have some data that if I get my shit together, I will be looking at that to confirm that thesis. But that's my general sense of that these people do, in fact. And given that young people are sort of brought up now on different starting points on the internet, their behaviors are going to be different. And you saw this, just as a note, you saw this with maps, that people who learned on MapQuest stuck with MapQuest through thick and thin, didn't matter how good Google was. And then a new generation of users got into Google, and you saw the same kind of generational behavior as those behaviors shifted.
So
I
just
want
say,
to go ahead, Greg.
well, just clarify. So Gen Z consumes reviews but doesn't write them.
As much, doesn't write them as much, yes, and consumes
Okay.
more reviews. Yes, that's what this
And
says.
is confused by the review writing process or whatever. It was an interesting
That may not accurately
comment.
reflect reality entirely.
Well, so
I mean, these are not unintelligent people. I mean, these are
Sure.
smart people.
I know. I was going to say this does sort of play into a feature release that we saw this week, which is now Google allowing reviewers to upload a video.
Right.
And so you wonder how much of this is on both the review collection as well as review consumption fronts, how much of this is trying to address the TikTok first crowd.
100%.
Where they may not want to write a review, but they'll record a 30-second selfie of their experience. And
you also saw a test from Google giving more options on restaurants to just click a button for a type of answer as well.
Yeah, and Apple has had that as part of their baked-in review process for a while, right? 6 attributes, thumbs up or thumbs down.
Right.
So,
although they don't seem to be, just to digress quickly to Apple, they don't seem to be really promoting that very much. I mean, that seems to be just sort of not moving.
Not only are they not promoting, but as we know from all of Mike's research, like the business is the one that really needs to be promoting the fact that this is the case, so that this is available.
Well, I'm just not sure that a lot of Apple users know that this is available, that they're doing this. But that's
what I'm saying though. But I wonder what the percentage of solicited reviews versus quote unquote natural reviews is on Google. And what I'm suggesting is that if Apple's review corpus is really going to grow, I think that it's largely going to be driven by businesses telling consumers, hey, we would appreciate your review on Apple, as opposed to natural discovery by Apple users.
I mean, Apple in theory is going to put ads in search results and in the Apple Maps somehow. That's been the sort of rumored reporting. But putting that aside, they don't care as much about getting reviews, I think. I mean, I think they care about Apple Maps usage, and certainly reviews would make Apple Maps more useful potentially. But I don't think that they're as invested as Google was in building a product around reviews. Google had tried to buy Yelp unsuccessfully. And so their whole review initiative was kind of an FU to Yelp. I mean, it was also a recognition that consumers want reviews. And so they built this, review engine or product or whatever we want to call it that was massively successful. I think I saw a data point from Curtis Boyd at the transparency company, Curtis Boyd rather, not Board. Curtis may be Boyd, but his name is Boyd. That was saying something like 70, this is totally informal, so don't, tweet this or anything. 71% of reviews in October and November were on Google, right? That of among the sort of totality of reviews that he's looking at on the web, the overwhelming majority were concentrated on Google, which is no surprise.
Just a quick comment about Google's motivation in 2008 to start their own review product. According to conversations I've had, Google asked Yelp to go global. Google had global aspirations. They're now stating they have 200 million global businesses in local, and that Yelp really wasn't capable or willing to do that, to expand globally, and that Google responded by creating their own global review product. So I'm sure there's a lot of
nuance probably in there. Yeah.
But I do think that Google did have and continues to have global aspirations.
Of course.
And clearly Google. Yelp was incapable of pulling that off. I mean,
well, Yelp was in Western Europe, in the UK primarily, and I guess decided to really pull back from that initiative. I don't remember the circumstances.
Which speaks to what I think Apple's issue is. I think in the United States, if a business doesn't have very many Yelp reviews, Apple reviews show up on that business if they have them. But if they do have Yelp reviews, there's some sort of relationship, both actual relationship and relationship between the number of reviews on Yelp and whether Apple reviews will even show up on a business listing. I think that Apple may be hedging their bets against Yelp's ongoing decline.
Although Yelp ad revenues are up, generally speaking. at the top line at least.
Yeah, I don't mean necessarily decline as a company. They may
but decline
survive
is
as a company.
decline is in terms of review volume. Yep, we
Yes.
talked about that.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.